ladies, Brenda Carter. I would like just to speak to you for a few minutes today about the power that lies within you. And I'm not talking about your natural abilities or a natural strength of your own, but I'm talking about the power of the Holy Ghost. If you've received that precious gift of God living inside of you, we're talking about Holy Ghost power. We're talking about the power that lives within you every day, every minute. And the way I'm going to talk to you about it today is through a personal testimony, personal experience of mine. And I've only shared it probably 3 to 4 times in a group setting, but feel strong about sharing it with this group. And if you've heard it before, which you very well may have, I just ask that you listen again, and maybe God will give you a deeper insight to that which I'm speaking about today. So in order to share my thought, I'm going to share with you an experience I had when I was about 29 years old. And we're going to go back in time to when I was a little girl. From as early as I can remember, I was always very fearful. They teased me. They called me Scaredy Cat, and yes, I was. But I was very fearful of being alone, and I was also very fearful of the dark. So much so, I never remember a time as a child not being afraid. And I shared a room with my sister, and until she got married and moved off. Well, almost until she got married and moved off. And I was always afraid, so much so that my mom had to come sleep with me well into my teen years. Now that I'm older, I can look back in time and say I had a spirit of fear. But as a child growing up, I didn't understand that. And it was very tormenting to me. I can't explain it. Even after I was married, when I was, as an example, I was married, and my husband, in our first year of marriage, we lived up in Minnesota, and he worked Valentine's. He worked in a flower shop, so he had to work until 1 or 2 in the morning. And when he came home, I had all of the lights in the house on. We were on the 2nd floor of an apartment building. It had no balcony. There was only one way into that apartment. It was through the front door, which had a deadbolt and a chain across it. But when he came home at 1 o'clock in the morning, I had all the lights on. I had found the butcher knife, and I was sitting in a corner, cowered down, scared to death, so afraid. I can't put into words how fearful I was. That time I was about 22, 23 years old, and I still had that fear. It went on with me and on with me. And one night I had a dream, and I was in my first trimester of pregnancy with Nathan. And in that dream, it was dark all around me, and there was just like a dim light that was shining on me. And through the darkness kept coming tormentors or demons and spirits that kept tormenting me and taunting me and pushing at me. And each one became bigger and uglier and more intensified. And as they pushed and shoved me around, finally we got to the biggest one that just was awful. I can't put words to it. And he actually shoved me down. And when he did, I fell back, and I was on the ground with one hand kind of to my side. I wasn't sitting Indian style, but with my legs to my side and just leaned down. And my head was down in defeat and in despair. And as I sat there, feeling defeated, it was like all of a sudden I had a realization. I had an understanding. And with my head down, I said, "That's okay." And I started to lift my head, and I started to look at that demon, that spirit, and begin to speak to it. I said, "That's okay." And I started gaining confidence. That's okay. Even at my weakest moment, I am stronger than you, because greater is he that lives in me than he that is in the world. And I woke up speaking in that heavenly language, and what was amazing in that dream was that big, awful demon. It was like somebody had taken a pin, like you do to a balloon, and popped it, and he just shriveled up, and he went away. He was no longer. And so did the darkness. And the light that had been dimly over me turned into a bright light, and there was no darkness around me. And I can still feel the power of the Holy Ghost. Every time I share that story, that was my personal experience, my personal deliverance from that fear. Since that time, at 29 years of age, yes, I lived with it that long. At 29 years of age, from that moment forward, my husband has had to travel across the world. I have stayed by myself. I have stayed with my children. God has delivered me from that, and I cannot put into words the fear and the torment that I had from it. And I just want to encourage you today, find the power that lies within you. We don't rely on ourselves and our own abilities to understand everything that goes on around us. But through Him, through the power of the Holy Ghost, all we have to do is speak that word. Greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. Satan does not have power over the power of God and the strength of God. Remember that the next time you come up against him, don't fight him on your own. Pull in that word and speak to that spirit and say, greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I love you all, and I hope this has helped you in some way and in your future. Thank you for listening.